Okay. Okay. So despite my reading being pretty decent, my thinking is not very decent. So when I started the essay and I realized that my analysis was going to be shit, I was like, maybe I should do like a Benji's Matchbox and like read and live analyze it like in tandem. Exactly, Rachel. Then I saw all that Freud crap, and also like, I tried to keep an open mind with this stuff. Like you guys know, I try to entertain stuff I disagree with when I read about different things. So I was trying to entertain her like 8 points about like different manifestations of internalized homophobia. I thought it was interesting, but honestly, I feel like a lot of this essay was bullshit, which is so disappointing to me. Like while I was reading the essay, I was like, I need to contact some of the rad femmes I know and be like, is there a lesbian, like a radical feminist lesbian text on like confronting the oppressor within or whatever, like internalized lesbophobia? Tossstone says very dated. I agree. And for you to say that, it's like you fucking know. Okay. We are now 63% through the book. What was the topic supposed to be? It's supposed to be about like confronting the oppressor within. So I was actually kind of excited cuz I thought it was this concept of like having like multiple senses of self like warring within yourself. I thought was like interesting. But then she went all into like the id, the ego and the super ego and all this bullshit. Rachel says, well, that flopped then. Exactly. Very disappointing. Okay, well now the cat food is gone. Momo is trying to flip over the garbage can. Every day I come home from work and it's like it sounds like an FF title. Thank you, Kaz. Cloudworld says she said it had a mix of good and bad. Yeah, there was some stuff. Yes, Michelle says some of her points seemed mutually exclusive. Rachel, don't encourage her. Okay. Um I'm gonna go back and read the live chat because I think some of you guys had some cool stuff to say. So okie dokie. Maple said, sometimes I forget this book is from the 80s, and then I'm like, it's actually pretty impressive they got this much right. Yeah, feel that. Also, Hope left, but it was cool that she came. Yeah, the way she used the terms like social deviance and stuff, I don't know, it's so strange though, because like on one hand, she was obviously trying to use specific language to represent like this is the stuff you internalize from the homophobic culture. For example, deviance, inversion. I don't know which words she used. She used perversion, stuff like that. She used a couple different words like that along those lines. But then, and I try to like entertain different perspectives. So my knee-jerk reaction when I hear lifestyle choice is like, that's offensive. But I was trying to be like, no, like take what she's trying to say and figure out what she's trying to say and then decide if you think it's offensive. So I was trying to keep an open mind about it. But the fact that she uses like these words like, deviant, pervert, whatever, to be like, this is what you've internalized from society, and then being like, this is what the therapist's attitude should be, this is what the therapist's like opinion should be, and presumably if she's saying don't use that language, like reading between the lines, I think she's kind of saying use this language instead, right? But then the language that she presents and her attitude to me is also not very like egocentric, right? Because she's kind of trying to say like, I don't know, it's just so weird to me. Like in the case study, she's talking about this woman Karen. She keeps making it out that lesbianism is a choice for her specifically, and like you can tell based on her actions, there's not much choice involved, right? Like obviously there's some, whether or not you actually have the sex, whether or not you go home with the woman, whatever. But it seemed to me like in the case of Karen, there was not much choice with her sexuality. She was very clearly a lesbian. And I'm like, if the therapist is constantly giving you the idea that it's a choice, won't that reinforce her list of like 8 issues or whatever? I don't know. Final Fantasy 75, confronting the enemy within. Tossstone says the difference I have seen is that the left are more homophobic now. Yeah, it was also very prescient that she had like one or two phrases in there uh about how, like, as society changes, homophobia will change, and like these might not be relevant anymore. Things need to evolve or whatever. Which, agreed. Um, Rachel says exactly. Lifestyle implies it's a choice, like a fashion trend, which is what I take issue with. I mean, again, I try to take it at face value. Like, why is choosing to use this word, or not even she? There's three authors. Why are they choosing to use this word? Like, um what does it mean that they're using this word in this context right now? And I mean, there is like a lifestyle. I mean, I try and take like a really big step back from all the emotional language or the emotional stuff that comes with the language. And I try and say, what does the word actually mean? Lifestyle. The way you live your life. Okay, it is true, right? Especially so far in the book, there's many comparisons of like straight mothers or lesbian mothers, or like straight women in a couple or lesbians in a couple, like this kind of stuff. And I'm like, you know what? It is true that your lifestyle, the things you do on the day to day, are different. But I agree, Rachel. It has so many connotations that it doesn't just mean your actual lifestyle is different. It means a lot of more things than that. Like when I hear, and I used to be worse before because people don't really use this anymore. Like my dad, when I was a teenager, he would use this like lifestyle thing, right? And the knee jerk reaction, right, is that like, wow, you think it's like a choice and that it's just like some kind of a trend that I'm like kinky or some crap like that, right? Like that's how I take it. But it obviously was like much stronger back in the day. Like you don't really hear people use that anymore. So the fact that she's using it in 1987 to me is pretty like, yeah. But I think also lifestyle, it implies like similar to kind of like queer, it implies a bunch of like political views and attitudes and stuff like that. Like, I don't know, it's just like a very weighted term. Kaz says, I don't get how people can genuinely think it's a choice. Surely you can tell the difference with how you feel toward one sex over the other if you're het or homosexual. Yeah, it's a really it's because she's one, at least one of the authors of this essay was bi. At some point, hey Gravity. At some point in the essay, the phrase was so strange. It was like some women relate sexually to men or something. I don't remember what the phrase was, but it was so strange. I need to find it. I wish I could control F a book. Oh, also, I was very, very uncomfortable with the way she kept being like Jews and blacks. I was like, why do you keep saying it that way? And like over and over and over. There's one page where she said it like 7 times, like the exact fucking same way. I was like, I mean, I know it was like 1987 or whatever, but to me, it's like, I'm not one to be like super PC or whatever, but I was just like, why? Why? It seems unnecessary. Okay. I feel like she's one of these or not she, because there's three authors. I feel like for sure one or all of the authors in this, they're on the same boat as like the lesbians are mean to the bisexuals and need to be nicer, because there's multiple points in the essay where she's like the political correctness of lesbians means that they can't like have complex nuanced thoughts about their identity or something, or like where she's like, because of political correctness or like because of like lesbian culture, lesbians are like being, encouraged to repress themselves or whatever. And I'm like, that's like a really huge generalization to make about all lesbian culture. Like, Yeah, a bunch of you bring up very good points about language and stuff. Yeah, Kaz, exactly. She wasn't saying black people or Jewish people or black women or Jewish women. She just kept saying Jews and black. Why? Stop saying that. Did you see the faces I was making? I was like, well, I'm reading it, but this is what it said. um, Michelle says it goes to show you that life in the ivory tower removes people from normal culture and life. Very, very much agree. I think that's a big part of a lot of the like postmodern bullshit. Okay. Okay, well, I don't know if I'm gonna find it, but at some point in here, she she basically says that some lesbians also, she literally says here that women with personality disorders or psychotic disorders are like beyond help from therapists and are incapable of like building healthy relationships. I was like, wow, that is a very huge statement to make. Um, I mean, she technically uses the term those patients are less able to make use of the relationship with a therapist or to develop intimate romantic partnerships with members of either sex. I was like, what kind of therapist are you that you think like people who need therapy are beyond help from therapists? What is the isn't that like make you not fit for purpose? Exactly, Michelle. Who got a ton of internalized misogyny, huh, doc? Especially like so from this essay, I would say this essay is very male identified. Like exactly, Rachel. I was like, are you serious right now? uh, this essay is very male identified because a lot of radical feminists they would dispute even the concept of borderline personality because of like the I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but like that a lot of women are traumatized by male violence and that their trauma reaction is the symptoms of borderline personality. And so, in effect, psychiatry has pathologized the trauma of women into a personality disorder because they're not doing what like is supposed to be done. Anyway, so radical feminists will have this kind of perspective that it's like it's not even a personality disorder, and it doesn't mean that they're like beyond help or that whatever they're nuts or something. This author is like, nope, they're nuts. Fuck that. I was like, excuse me, the fuck. Like it's one thing what she brings up like if we take her at face value, right? With this whole like the id, the ego, and the super ego anxiety based on sexuality, right? Then okay, it does make sense that somebody with a stronger sense of self, more ego, or more stable ego, whatever the term she uses, would be more accessible, right? Would you would have better results with this person? This makes a lot of sense to me. But to go so far as to be like if you don't have a super strong sense of self, this is all hopeless and don't worry about it is like really insane to me. Um, Kaz says borderline personality dysphoria, borderline personality disorder is female hysteria rebranded, in my opinion. For also a person, what is this phrase? It's the idiot to imbecile to retarded to mentally disabled pipeline. It all means the same thing and ends up being used in the same way no matter how many times you change the language. Yes. Kaz says translation, I don't like helping those women because of the effort. And Rachel also brings up, very aptly as usual, psychosis in women is significantly impacted by trauma. Yeah. Like, hasn't there been study? Is BPD always a result of trauma? I don't think always, but I think in women, like, it's a significant factor, at least most of the time. Hasn't there been studies that um, if you experience significant trauma while you're young, it affects your brain development. And if you are someone who has a brain development that is affected by trauma from a young age, that you are much more likely to experience psychosis. Or am I making bullshit up? Like, it's been years since I read about this stuff, but I'm pretty damn sure that there's like data pointing to that at this point. Anyway, obviously she's in 1987, okay, actually, let's read about who are these authors, because I'm like highly critical. I'm right. Okay, thank you, Rachel. Okay. Um it's just it, that one, I mean, that's not even what the essay is about, but it just really, really hits me the wrong way because I'm like, if you think these women are beyond help, like, who else do you think is beyond help? I mean, I don't know. It's one thing for a therapist to be like, "You know what? This isn't my field," or like, "I think these people deserve more help than I can provide," or like, you know, like, there's a lot of different, like, professional reasons to be like, I'm not gonna deal with that." But then to be I don't know, whatever. Um, yeah. Okay, let's read about who these authors are. So, Liz Margolies. Liz Margolies, um, I think C.S.W is a social work degree, is a psychotherapist in private practice in New York City and a clinical supervisor for New York Women Against Rape. She specializes in treating sexual assault survivors. Okay, that makes it much more dystopian, that statement. The next person, Martha Becker. Mhm. Martha Becker, again, CSW, which I think means social worker, is a psychotherapist practicing independently in Brooklyn, New York, and in a clinic setting in Nassau County. Her special areas of expertise include substance abuse, chronic illness, and sexual assault traumas. Carla Jackson Brewer. I think it's like on the last page. Carla Jackson Brewer, MS, so Masters of Science, I guess, is a licensed clinical psychologist who is currently on the staff of the King County Hospital and an assistant clinical instructor at the Downstate Medical Center in New York. She is in private practice in New York City. Okay, so they're all New Yorkers, and two of the three work specifically with women who are sexually traumatized, which makes their views more concerning, actually. Um, Kaz says she seems to really take Freud to heart. Yes, which goes back to what I was saying before. That this is like a very male identified essay. Um, Michelle, what is your background? Are you a STEM person? I need to eat something. Um, I want to go through the list of the 8 things. Are you guys coming or going? You can borrow my car if you want. Because, like, it's been raining. Oh, no. Bye, Rachel. Toss Jones brings up a very good point. Poverty that spans generations creates massive amounts of trauma that is hard to fathom for those from privilege. One sec. Yo! My degree is in theoretical maths. I was trained to research and code algorithms. That is so freaking cool, dude. I didn't get my PhD, so I was not considered one of those in maths. Oh, that sucks. All that shit is bullshit anyway, though. Like, have you seen some of these woke PhDs and what they have to say about crap? I'm like, I didn't even finish my undergrad, and I'm not as stupid as you are. No offense to your education. Obviously, it's like good and stuff. I just mean like people put way too much importance on that crap. So I went back while I'm eating. I'm looking at the live chat from the last stream, and Michelle says, "I was waiting for the assumption, or for that assumption. How strong is the evidence that humans act out subconscious feelings?" Yeah, I mean, I guess specifically when it comes to sexuality, that's its own thing because you can have subconscious feelings, but then have like physical feelings in your body that you're in denial about, and that's different than having like, subconscious feelings with no physical sensation, right? But I also also person's like, how did you miss the okay, well, she's talking about something else, but I mean in this context also, it's like, how did you miss the correlation versus causation thing? Yeah. Um So also, a couple of you mentioned Far from the Trees by Andrew Solomon. It is on my to read list, but because it's by a man, it's pretty far down on my to read list. Um, I do think you guys are bringing up the concept of like social terrorism towards gay people and how it affects our behavior. I thought that was so interesting. Um, I would love to learn more about that, but preferably not from a man. Yeah, I have some friends who are doing their PhDs and they also hate other PhDs. It's almost like lawyers. It's like all the lawyers hate each other and don't want to be friends with each other. Well, the whole thing with peer reviewed papers are like, who are the peers? And like, I have friends in academia who are not stupid, and they're like, we don't have the time. They're like, most of the time when some of them have told me this. A lot of the time, it's like I have like a stack of shit I'm supposed to review, and it's like I literally do not have the time to do that because I have to do my own research that I'm like getting paid grants or whatever for, and then I have to do like my own thesis, and then I have to like do my TA ships and whatever. And they're like, so it's like I think there's just like so many fucking reasons why the whole peer review process is very stupid and makes no sense and it's not effective. Um, Peer review doesn't help when the peers are dumb as fuck. Thank you for that insight, Meyer. Okay. My bad. I keep like switching between muting on the mic and muting on the computer and it confuses me. Okay. I just made Kaz a moderator. Michelle, do you want to be a moderator? I feel like there could be more moderators. If you want to be, just let me know. Okay. um, okay, so we're gonna go through the list of 8 things, and then maybe we'll do like the last page, and then we'll wrap it up. No, yeah, Michelle. The thing with being a moderator is that if I have like 20 moderators, that way there's always at least a few of them in the room at once. It's not so much that I want you to feel obligated to be here to do something, but just that if there's like a bunch of you, then the chances are that a couple of you will be around all the time. All right. And Michelle, well, you're one of the women who shows up most consistently to my streams. Okay. So I'm going to read out the whole point and then we will analyze it, okay? Prepare to rant about things. 1. Fear of discovery. Although such fear is generated by a need to protect oneself from possible rejection, it is sometimes expressed as a need to protect others from the knowledge of one's own homosexuality. Statements like, it will kill them, or we don't talk about my personal life, so there's no need to bring it up, express this fear and exhibit a defense mechanism of projection and rationalization. I totally agree with this one. Um, Oh yeah, you've been promoted to the mail removal committee. Is that what you guys were calling yourselves? Um, so I totally agree with this fear of discovery thing and how it can become like a projected rationalization. That makes a lot of fucking sense to me. I actually think she didn't go far enough with this. Like, I think the ultimate extreme of this is when women are like, if I have a crush on a girl, I am like perverting her in some way. Like literally like my thoughts in my brain. That's perverting her in some way. Or like if I like want to hold a girl's hand, or I mean woman, if I want to like hold a woman's hand, that's like, again, this is me like violating her in some way. Like I think that's the most extreme projection of this like fear of discovery. So I agree with that point completely and think she didn't take it far enough. Okay. Momo has knocked over the garbage, but she's not digging through it. Well. Um Toston says an academic here murdered his partner violently, and an investigation into porn use by the university has done the use was shockingly high. You know what? At University of Toronto, in like I think the sexual diversity studies department, there is literally a course being taught. We should do a Benji's Matchbox about this. There's a course being taught specifically about porn. Like they watch porn in the class. And the guy who's teaching it is like doing like, you know when the professors do like one semester at one university, like they go somewhere else. I think he's like from Harvard or some shit, or like NYU or some Columbia, something like some high profile university. I literally googled it, and like something from 2018 comes up of like, ooh, a professor accidentally played porn in a hall, and it's in like a lecture hall, like it's a big deal. And then literally here we are in 2022, like, yep, this course is porn. That's the point of this course. Um I think it's a high level course. I'm looking for it. They have a lesbian course. It's a year 3 course. Can I audit that? I just want to like be there to yell at them that they're full of shit. Oh, I think I found it here. Unless this is a different course. Do they have multiple courses on porn? Oh no, he's just a U of T guy. I don't know why I thought it was a visiting professor. Actually, maybe there's been multiple courses like this recently. I'll need to find it again, but I saw somebody on Twitter do like a breakdown of like the rubric for the course, and there's literally like a section of the course where they watch different types of porn to like learn about different types of kinks and all kinds of weird bizarre shit. Um like I think there's literally a subsection of the course that's about like the influence of Pornhub on society or some like it's insane. It's like patriarchal propaganda the course. Um yeah, anyway, okay. Well, Hannah, the students who sign up for this course are probably already indoctrinated and they think that it's a good thing. It's like, I mean, obviously they're adults, and especially if it's a fourth year course, they're not like 18-year-olds. But um Maybe this is like a flawed comparison, but I think when it comes to the effect of indoctrination, it's a good comparison. So I was groomed a lot as a teenager, um, into like cyber sexing situations a lot. And I have friends who went through similar things, but they didn't just do it online. They ended up like doing sexual stuff with adults as like young teens in person, right? And some of them I've talked to or I've seen them talking about stuff like just posting essays or whatever. I mean blog posts really. And because their indoctrination is ongoing, they cannot conceptualize that the thing they've been through is bad because the indoctrination was before and after the bad thing, right? So I think it's the same with this kind of thing. Like, if people are indoctrinated to be like porn is amazing and like sexual exploitation is spectacular and wholesome and empowering and whatever, they will enter this class, you know, be pushed further into like legitimate sexual deviancy, but they're not going to have like an actual awareness of that because from their perspective, their mindset has only changed slightly from before and after the experience, right? Yeah, I agree, Michelle. Sexologists are a real bag of something. Okay. So yeah, the first point, I think she didn't go far enough. Let's read the second point. 2. Discomfort with obvious fags and dykes. Again, this point has merit. The bull dyke, as an unembarrassed embodiment of how different lesbians are, evokes public scorn and condemnation that a more quote unquote normal looking lesbian believes she doesn't deserve. A lesbian who tries to pass will fear that association with more obvious homosexual types will give away her true identity. This belief and behavior are examples of the defense mechanism of identification with the aggressor. It's interesting how she frames it as identification with the aggressor. Because I would actually view it the opposite, even though it's the same. I would view it as like a disidentification with the self. Um, oh yeah, Michelle. I also know like adult predators. Like I've, especially among GCs, I have talked to 3 different women who I've known for. One of them I've known for quite a long time. The other 2 I didn't really know that well. But because of what I talk about publicly, they know that I would be receptive to this. I've talked to 3 different gender critical women who've contacted me to say, look, you know this gender critical Tim? He's a fucking predator. And he has been like sexually harassing and manipulating me for like 2 years or something. Um, and like with, well, I'll just say like one name. And if you know, you know. And if you don't, you don't. I'm not going to explain it. Like with the whole kinesis thing that went down. Like again, it was like a sexually predatory situation and it was all adults. So, yeah. I haven't heard that about David Hayden. Um, but I've heard that about more minor gender criticals, like gender critical Tims. Um, yeah, yeah. Okay, well, if you don't know, that's fine. Don't worry about it. But it was like a lot of gender critical people were involved in that Facebook group and that like everything. And it turned out the whole thing was like a front for that kind of shit. Anyway, okay, so this literally is part of like the contemporary discourse, right? By the way, I took like a bunch of CBD and my headache is like mostly gone, so I'm good, I think. Not sure if my analysis is as coherent or deep as usual, but here we are. Well, did you guys see Trans Widows Voices on Twitter? I think this was like 3 weeks ago, but I can't remember. Maybe a month ago now, actually. I don't know. But She posted that she's been contacted by a woman who said she wanted to, like, like, make an account and be a GC and talk to other GCs and crap about her experience with her narcissistic Tim husband who's abusive. But she can't because apparently whoever her husband is one of the high profile Tims among the GCs. So, like, this is not a hypothetical situation where these, like, nice guys are put on a pedestal so that the feminists, or they're not even feminists, so that these women can, like, pat themselves on the back and pretend that they're, like, amazing people or whatever it is that they're doing. Meanwhile, an actual fucking woman who is a survivor of domestic violence cannot go to the mainstream support, obviously, and she now can't even go to the alternative support because the alternative to support is too obsessed with, like, sucking this dude's whatever. Yeah. Okay. So yes, okay, in contemporary discourse, we all know, right? With gay men, there's, like, the whole thing of how, like, a lot of gay men, they don't want to be, like, associated with, like, faggy types, like effeminate types. They don't date them, they don't want to sleep with them, they don't want to be seen with them. It's, like, very homophobic, right? And it's so obvious that it's homophobia, right? Same thing with lesbians. And if you talk, well, there aren't that many sisters in the chat today, but if you talk to the re-identified or detransitioned women who are lesbians, a lot of them will tell you, like, the tiny little snippets of lesbian community that I did find, like those little groups of friends who were lesbians that I tried to hang out with a couple times. A lot of them will say, especially, like, it's always been a thing. Like, I've heard women telling me this experience, like, since the 70s or 80s at least, but especially now with trans crap. A lot of them will have the experience of, if I wanted to be with a man, I'd be with a man. I don't want to be, like, with a woman who thinks she's a man or pretends to be a man or is, like, manly or whatever. And to me, it's not so much being like, I'm a straight person, so I'm better than you when this happens. It's more like, you're gross and disgusting, and I'm not gross and disgusting. So I agree with her point around this. And what does she call it? She calls it a mechanism of identification with the aggressor. I guess in terms of, like, the power in the situation, it kind of is that. Okay. Point 3. Yeah, it never went away. They just started using new words for it. Rejection/denigration of all heterosexuals, heterophobia. This one I kind of laughed at. Let's see what she says. This is a homophobic response to reverse discrimination. When a lesbian's homosexuality is ego-syntonic, she doesn't require anyone to share her value and lifestyle. Projection is the defense at work here. Okay, so I kind of get what she's saying, and I kind of agree with it. She's basically saying, like, if you need to hate on the straights, that's because you're insecure. And, like, true enough. This is obviously a thing. I would say it's, like, particularly strong among people who are, like, questioning or, like, going through some kind of a transitional phase in terms of understanding their sexual orientation. But, like, if I met a woman, a lesbian, who, like, had a partner and, like, a community, and, she wasn't hung up about, like, actual sexual behavior, she wasn't hung up about, like, gender roles, all this kind of stuff, but she was like, "We're better than the straights, and the straights are stupid." I wouldn't be like, "Oh my god, there's the internalized homophobia. Here we were thinking she's well adjusted, and yet she's fucked in the head." I wouldn't. I think, like, it can be a factor, but I think it kind of doesn't belong on this list in terms of, like, severity. Um, yeah, exactly, Michelle. It's like, also as a feminist, it's not so much about, like, the sexual orientation of straight women that I think makes me, like, better or something. Like, I don't think of it that way, but I do think, like, in a feminist perspective, I'm less likely to experience a lot of intimate partner violence and abuse and shit than a straight woman. It's like, I feel bad for them. It's not so much that I'm like, haha, you guys suck, right? I just got 2 Oreos from a vending machine. Possible Person says, Yeah, the whole femme for femme, I'm not into butches thing was part of my initial exposure and very disheartening to me. It's fine on an individual level, but it was like 95% of what I saw. Yeah. That's also one of the reasons that I can't really get into like lesbian romance novels. Like I've tried, but a lot of them, even if they're just femme for femme, but it's not explicitly stated like they hate butches or something, it's really hard to like get that out of my head and like fucking enjoy the book, which is depressing. Um Oh, Kaz, that's a very good point. Kaz says the constant hatred toward the straights, I think, contributes to people thinking sexuality is a choice. If they're not straight, then they're cool and hip, so they choose not to be straight. I think it goes beyond that. Yes, send me titles, Michelle. Email me. Whether I'll reply to you or not and when I will get around to it is unknown, but send it to me and I will definitely take it into consideration. Um, I think it goes farther than that, Kaz. I think what's happened is that a social value has been placed on sexual orientation. And being in any minority makes you, because you're rarer, right? Based on scarcity, makes you more interesting. Like I think it's almost like a novelty at this point to be like queer. It's like trendy, right? Like in a literal way. Yeah, just email me to my like gnc-centric at gmail, which is like on my YouTube and everywhere. Okay. Um and so what's happened is that because there's like now like social value. What's happened is because there is now like a social value assigned to your sexual orientation, or even not even your actual sexual orientation, to assigned to the label you've used for yourself. It's seen as like less than and more than to have certain labels. So it's like it's all about just like trading labels till you have a label that makes you feel cool or like not ashamed of being like the bad guys or whatever. Um, Clown World butch women are so fucking hot. Strong agree. um, Burglary says what even counts as butch. Well, let's not get into that. I really like muscular women. Oh my god, yeah. The first couple of desisted, or I mean, technically the detransitioned women, although at the time we all called ourselves re-identified, that I knew, they were like bodybuilders on Instagram, and I was like, yes. Yeah, like I don't have like, I definitely have like a thing for butch women, but it's not like, I don't know. I don't have like a type where it's like if you're not like that, then I can't be into you, you know? Um, and also just like in my life, uh I've only been attracted to like a handful of women, and it's not like they're all like the same type of women. It's pretty like random. I don't know. Like at some point I wonder if like my affinity for butch women is kind of like me trying to like that about myself or like accept that more about myself or something. Not that I think I have like some kind of an issue, but I wonder if it's like actually something to do with myself rather than like an actual situation where it's like a partner that I, do you see what I mean? Like I think it's kind of a complex thing. I'm not sure. Okay. Oh yeah. Like I like butch women as long as they don't think they need to behave like men. That is like the most aggravating shit ever. I've only come across a couple of those women and I cannot fucking stand that. Their behavior is basically the behavior of a tiff, and I'm done with that shit. Very Freud of you. Thanks, a bird killed me. I try, you know, with my male identified psychological analyses. Okay. Number 4, feeling superior to heterosexuals. This form of homophobia is an exaggerated gay pride. A false embracing of differentness. It can be expressed as we are better because we have a harder life, or our lives are more interesting, freer, more artistic, less encumbered, or we are better because we don't have to deal with men. I think this is more like we were talking about just a second ago. This is almost very similar to the last point. These statements are often voiced by the lesbian community when a member decides. This is what the thing where I was like, these authors are bisexual. Are you ready? Listen to this. These statements are often voiced by the lesbian community when a member decides to relate sexually to a man. What the fuck does that mean? These feelings and statements reflect the use of rationalization and reaction formation. Okay, relate sexually to a man. Does that mean, because relate is a kind of broad word, it could mean a lot of things. Does that mean when a lesbian is having sex with another woman that she relates to the role of a man in bed? Like, relates sexually to a man. Does that mean a woman having sex with a man and calling herself a lesbian? I don't know what it means. Bird killed me. He's like, out, they're out here by erasing themselves again. Yeah. Toss stones. I got called a tractor by a group of people when I work for. I asked, am I not butch enough to be a bulldozer? Kaz says, like in quotes, she's like satirizing what the authors are doing. I'm gonna write a portion of internalized homophobia while being covertly homophobic. I'm very smart. Yeah. Okay. Like, I wish she would have gone into this more because oh, hey, Matt Adam. I honestly don't understand what her criticism is of this. That it's a rationalization. I do think like this whole we're better because we have a harder life thing, or our lives are more interesting and free and less encumbered. Those kind of play into like what I was just saying, like the socially assigned values of different sexual orientations. Um, and that's not a great thing, obviously, as we've seen. But literally, lesbian couples are less encumbered. Like literally, I don't think it's like I don't think this is like my internalized homophobia coming out, but it's like that has been said so many times in this book. I think even in this essay at least once, because there is no like blueprint for what lesbian family or lesbian couple is supposed to be compared to like the traditional um nuclear family, then we are literally less encumbered. Michelle says, I think these therapists only did their consciousness raising with other therapists, so no one had the chance to tell them they're full of Freud, i.e., shit. Okay, the next point. 5. Belief that lesbians are not different from heterosexual women. Belief that lesbians are not different. This is really weird to read after the last essay, because in the last essay was a compare and contrast of what is the same and what is different between lesbians and straight women, right? And the consensus of that essay, which was more like an expanded abstract of a study, was that um, in that study, the lesbians were more similar to the straight women than the researcher originally thought or hypothesized. Okay, let's read the whole thing. This belief rationalizes and minimizes the true differences in an attempt to avoid discrimination, homophobia from others. Okay. It denies the social, political, and sexual context within which lesbian relationships struggle for existence. This can be expressed as relationships are all the same, mine just happens to be with another woman, or what we do in bed doesn't define us. This is rationalization and denial. I don't know, like, I kind of agree with her and I kind of disagree with her. Like, on one hand, it's true that there are women who are like, "Well, it's like that just happens in our bedroom and that's nothing to do with, like, who I am as a person." But it's like, that statement is both true and not true. You know what I'm saying? And although I do think that relationships are all the same, mine just has to do with another woman, I don't think that's true. I think, like, women and men are socially so different that, like, a woman-woman relationship, like, literally, what would be the point of this book? You know? I'm not gonna go into that. Michelle says, "Wait a minute, just a fucking minute. It does not define us. We've been fighting to be seen as whole human beings." Yeah, exactly. That's the thing too, is to be like, I don't know. So, my is this woman a lesbian? Well, this is the thing. The fact that they're like, we need to be nicer to the women who relate to men sexually and, like, stop being mean to, like, the bis and whatever, makes me think that one or more of the because none of the authors of this essay in their bio does it say that they're lesbians. Some of the other authors will say, like, yeah, I did research on this lesbian topic, or like, I'm a partner of this other, like, author of this book who's also a woman. So there's a couple of them, it's very obvious that they're lesbians. These three authors, their blurbs were very short. I don't know what their sexual orientations are. um I really get the feel the women who wrote this are bi. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, I guess on its face, the idea that lesbians are not different from heterosexual women is like, I don't want to accept that I'm different, So, yeah, that I think that is a form of internalized homophobia. But I also think, like, accepting that you're a lesbian means accepting the ways in which you are not that different. I think it's like a nuanced thing, and she is just. I think she just didn't go into enough detail because I don't really. It's very weird the way she stated it. Michelle says it really sounds like the same level of ignorance I've run into when I read a book written by a straight woman who thought she knew lesbians. Yeah. I did not have sexual relations with that man. Clown World, are you satirizing political lesbians? Okay. 6. This one is so obvious and I completely agree with it. An uneasiness with the idea of children being raised in a lesbian home. This idea is often expressed as, I think artificial insemination is too deviant, or I believe children need to have a male parent. These statements deny the reality that many children are raised by single mothers and also demean the validity of a lesbian relationship. It is like saying it's okay for me to be a lesbian, but I wouldn't want my daughter to marry one. This employs the defense mechanisms of identification with the aggressor. Yeah, completely agree. Let's move on. Number 7. Restricting attractions to unavailable women, heterosexuals, or those already partnered. This I had like a bit of a nuanced view on. So, these attractions will never lead to a fully committed relationship, are a way of restraining full expression of one's lesbianism. We will elaborate on this in the case presentation. Denial is the defense. Okay, so she didn't really go into it, and I honestly, the case representation was not, the case presentation wasn't 1,000% on this topic, but honestly, I know so many lesbians who, like, fell in love with some straight girl when they were, like, in elementary school or high school or whatever, and then, like, it was obviously never reciprocated, or, like, at most, they fooled around, like, one time, and then the lesbian was, like, heartbroken or something, and I'm like, I think it's, like, a self-preservation to not allow yourself to, like, indulge fantasies about unattainable women, right? I mean, yeah. And then also, on the other hand, though, there are a lot of lesbians who even like no like I went through a phase like this. It took me like about 2 years to kind of get out of this like psychological catch 22. There are a lot of lesbians who even noticing that they're attracted to a woman or having any kind of physiological response to a woman that they find attractive sends them into like a guilt spiral, right? Or like sends them into like hardcore repression mode or something. I think there's a difference between like noticing, oh, I'm attracted to this woman, and being like indulging a fantasy that you want to be with her. Like there's a line, and I think her bringing up this point was not very nuanced. Um, Michelle says, seriously, straight women really think all lesbians are into penetration. There's almost always pounding involved. Lady, go screw your husband and I'll leave us alone. um, yeah. That's another issue. Like I keep trying to read lesbian novels, but it's so fucking hard because it's like how are you supposed to find it's stuff that's like published before 1990. How are you supposed to find it was actually by a lesbian author? It's like impossible. And then when it's by a straight woman, it's like the romance is nice sometimes, or like the storyline or the characters might be good. And then when it gets to like the like spicy scenes, it's like what the fuck is this? Um, and it just totally like I don't read the books for those scenes, but it like totally destroys all of it. Naiad? I think it's on my to read list. Who among lesbians never fell for the straight girl? I don't know if I like fell for straight girls, but I did have like this best friend in oh, it's a publisher. Mm. A lesbian publisher. Why have I never thought of this before? Anyway. Um Oh yeah, but it was like I've talked about this before. I think a lot of the reasons that lesbians don't realize they're lesbians when they're young is because we'll have like emotional connections with women that are like really strong and that we fantasize about like indulging, but not sexual. Oh yeah, Bella Books. Are they only lesbian publisher? Who am I confusing them with? I'm 100% sure I've read some stuff by Bella Books. Oh, yeah. They have some like really trashy Harlequin type stuff. I think I've read that. um Aqua, the way you talk about sex is hilarious. Okay. On the bright side, nothing happened, and I ended up well educated because you followed the girl you had a crush with into AP class. Yeah. Okay. 7. Oh no, that's the one we just did. 8, the last point. Maple, hey, what's up? Yeah, Maple, and it's like, when I read MM, like 99% of the time I'm skipping through the sex scenes, unless it's like they're saying I love you for the first time or something that's like relevant to the plot, right? But with lesbian stuff, I'm like, well, I will read the sex scene, right? But then it's like horrible. And I'm like, why am I trying? Like, let's just, at least with the gay stuff, if I know I'm going to skip all the sex scenes, nothing to be disappointed about, you know? Mabel says it breaks the immersion when all the sex is penetration focused. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like, it takes me out. It's like I become like out of the world of the book when the stuff becomes really unrealistic. It's almost like if you're reading like a high fantasy novel and they're taking all the magic really seriously, and then there's like a problem in the book that can easily be solved by magic and they don't use it. And it's like, wait, what? It just makes no it's like the continuity of the book is fucked. So it's like if the whole book is about lesbians and then the sex they have is like bizarre, I'm like it takes me like out of the book, you know? Have you read Curious Wine? I don't think so. Oh, it's a forest. Yeah, I have Daughters of the Coral Dawn here. Oh yeah, by the way, guys, I think I've decided that we're not going to be reading Sisters of the Road on here anymore. Um, I've lost momentum with it. Most of you guys aren't following along anymore. I just kind of want to finish the book by myself, you know. Um, I think that this channel is really not focused on fiction. The first fiction we read was to recuperate after the atrocity that was Sophistries, I think. Oh no, was to recuperate after eating fire because it was so bad. Um, I think what we're gonna do is keep reading the nonfiction, and then the next time I read a nonfiction that we need to recuperate from, we will read a Catherine Forrest book because her books are standalones; they're not series mostly. And I've only ever heard good things. She's like the number one most recommended lesbian author to me. So anyway, okay. So eight, I also found a bit stupid and confusing. Short-term relationships. Issues of intimacy, trust, and merging notwithstanding, short-term relationships require less commitment to one's lesbianism. Okay, how can you say notwithstanding? How can you separate these two things? It's very stupid. So issues of intimacy, trust, and merging. Merging is like the thing where you become like your sense of ego becomes like fused with your partner or whatever. So she is like, if you exclude all those issues, how do you exclude those issues? How are you sure that that's not what's going on? I don't know. But okay, let's go with it. If you exclude all those issues, short term relationships require less of a commitment to one's lesbianism. Living with a lover involves greater social risks and stigmas than having a casual quote unquote dating relationship. So it's like commitment brings with it decisions about public rituals. For example, Thanksgiving with the family or the office Christmas party, rationalizations and denials are the defenses. I mean, I'm not saying, again, we have to keep in mind this is in the 80s. I'm not saying this is like never a thing, what she's pointing out. But I think to say that this is like a common example of lesbophobia that you can like just look at your client and be like, oh yeah, this is her internalized lesbophobia is very stupid to me. Um, because I think a big part of lesbians' dating patterns is like availability, like scarcity. Um, and also like because of availability and scarcity of lesbians for dating each other, like I think our like relationship skills, right, are not great a lot of the time. Um I don't know. It's like no matter what lesbians do, whether they're like serial monogamists or whether they stay in monogamous relationships but they're not like sexually obsessed with each other, or whether they're like constantly hooking up and never having serious relationships, like either whatever they do, it's like proof that they're bad at being lesbians, and like that's not good. Um, like to me, that seems homophobic or lesbophobic specifically. Michelle says, is she trying to say that straight women can tolerate short term while looking for a man? Lol. Well, yeah. If you ever had to push two twin beds together when family visited, this is true. But this is self preservation. No, plus we don't go through the training that straight kids do and have our first relationship in our late teens. We don't recover as quickly. Yeah. Um Honestly, I don't know many lesbians who have like casual relationships. Like the lesbians I know, the lesbians I know, almost all of them want like a serious long-term committed relationship. And some of them will like do hookups or like friends with benefits things because they want sex and they know that like the possibility of a long-term committed relationship is like very small. Like, I don't know. This is kind of a strange thing for her to bring up. Um, Honestly, what this made me think of is this entire part of the essay. So you guys know I said I had this bisexual friend in university. So when we first became friends, it was like months after I came out as a lesbian, like very soon after. She was 42 at the time, and I was 22. No, I was 20. No, I was 21. No, when did I come out as a lesbian? Yeah, no, I was 20. I was 20 and she was 42. Okay. So she was the kind of woman who will like have sex with women and have sex with men, but only date men. And then she literally did that thing where it's like I look too dykey, like I buzzed my head, and then she buzzed her head. And then she like called me in a panic one day and was like freaking out and being like, "You look dykey, and now I look dykey, and if we hang out together, people will think we're dykes together," and blah 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 blah. And so, to me, I think that maybe this is what the author is getting at, right? That if you, I know, I stopped being friends with her after that. I was like, I'm like insecure, and if I respect myself and I want to like protect myself, I think I can't hang out with you, and that was like it. Um, yeah. No, and it's so bad because she was, like, eating me out of house and home, and, also I was providing, um, other expensive things that I don't care to name on the internet, but yeah. But anyway, I think that's what the author is getting at. It's like, if you think having sex with women is okay, but dating women is not okay, it's because for you, there's, like, a psychological split between, like, hooking up with a woman and, like, the social impact of being in a partnership with a woman, right? Because she's saying, like, Thanksgiving or, like, Christmas party at the office or whatever. It's like, yeah, there is, like, a leap between those 2 things, right? But again, it's like, to me, one of the most concerning parts of this essay, or concerning aspects of the way this essay is written, is she brings up very early on, there's a difference between, like, having self-preservation and an awareness of your safety and having internalized homophobia. But then she never mentions it again. Like, this specifically, right? Like, depending on what your career is as a woman and what time period you're in, I don't think it's necessarily internalized homophobia to be like, "I don't wanna be in a relationship with a woman." It might, like you said, be self-preservation. No, Matt Adam, I never no. Yes. Um, yeah. It's so to me, it's like, how can you list all these things that are proofs of internalized homophobia that can have a very rational response without saying, like, look, this is where I draw the line between this is the homophobia and this is the self-preservation. Guys, I'm not gonna like start telling you about my sex life on YouTube. Don't worry. You can assume that's never what I'm talking about. Okay. She was very insecure, like, she hung out at my house, like, 24/7. Well, my apartment. And then I know that she was, like, lonely and, like, like anyone, horny. She would have, like, hookups with guys all the time. And then she would, like, come over to my house and tell me, like, specifics about what happened, like, what she liked, what she didn't like, and all this kind of shit. And I remember just being like, "I don't wanna, like, shame her, and, like, I guess this shows that she trusts me or is comfortable with me or something." But then I was like, in retrospect, it's like the fact that I was a lesbian and I was, like, the only same-sex attracted person that she had in her life and that she, like, made a point of telling me about that all the time is extremely fucked up, right? Like, not only for me, but also for her. Like, that's really, like, what's going on in her mind. It's very sad, you know? Okay. All right. Let's read the last page. Yeah, she's literally the age of my mother. Yeah, her age, the age between me and her is my mother's age. So, make of that what you will. I'm pretty tired. I kind of wanted to talk about the case study, but I'm pretty tired. Let's just see what the last page talks about. I'm going to read the last paragraph. Because homophobia is a reflection of the way in which society views homosexuality, the nature of homophobia may change over time with society's changing attitudes towards sex and difference. Other areas for further investigation include an exploration of how internalized homophobia is both different from and similar to other internalized oppressions, and the interactions of multiple internalized oppressions. This chapter provides a possible framework for future examination. Okay, that was kind of stupid last paragraph. Not much to analyze about that. All right, so made it through. That was a very disappointing essay. It's not like there was nothing in the essay that was decent, but after the last couple essays being fucking bang on, that was not it. Whoa, no way, Marion. Marion says, I was thinking in the 80s and 90s, one of the trends among lesbians was to take massage classes to acquire hand skills and sensitivity. I don't think it's still the case anymore. It's sad. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's also just so lesbian to be like very like pragmatic about it. Like it's so pragmatic that approach. Um oh, okay, bye Michelle. Yeah, I was definitely in a codependent relationship with her. Like I definitely had like no boundaries with her. It's very bad. She is the last person that I had, well, other than my ex after her. She's the last like non-romantic codependent relationship I've been in, and I've been like very, very conscientious of that and been like fucking avoiding it as much as possible. Everyone is like, where are the massage lesbians? Okay. The ones I knew were mostly from the southern US. Ugh, vanilla. Ugh. The whole like kink versus vanilla thing is stupid, first of all, because I think it limits the variety within like the vanilla if you label everything that's not super boring as kink, and then that makes it so that you're open to like all the kinks where like, you know, maybe like pinching your partner is not the same as like whipping them to death. Vanilla is used as a slur now. Yeah, to shame women. It's basically like calling you a prude. It barely killed me. Nobody told me that was a category of lesbians. I've wasted so much time. What have you been like? Have you been lusting after the hiking lesbians or the dog walking lesbians instead? Like, um, okay. So we have streamed today for 3.5 hours, which is very decent. Um, right. So is tomorrow Thursday? I'm pretty sure I'm gonna stream tomorrow. I need to move all my scheduled streams since we did 2 today. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna stream tomorrow. Friday, I'm not sure if we're gonna stream. I don't know. Saturday, noon Eastern time, 9 a.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. GMT. Sister Space. Aqua says, I believe in retaining your dignity in the bedroom and generally, really. That's a radical thing to say, Aqua. I don't know how you feel comfortable saying that here. That is a radical statement. Are you crazy? Your cat just came home. Oh, Allie, I'm so glad for you. I lost one of my dogs once. It was very upsetting. Okay, I'm gonna get Momo to come and say goodbye, and then we're gonna wrap it up. Can you hear the purring? She looks like an angel. Dude, she looks like a blob. She's like unconscious. Mama, do you have any like body shape? Or are you just like a blob of fur? What are you doing? Are you okay? Alrighty. There's not much to do to keep her happy. You just feed her and clean her poops, and she seems happy. Alright. Okay, so I will see you guys probably tomorrow and 1000% for sure on Saturday with Rachel for Sister Space. Alright. Okay, bye.